And my name is Amber. If you have attended any of our webinars before, you have seen me. I do a lot of the webinars with Gwen, and I'm excited to talk about this today. My background is in education. I've spent over 15 years now in secondary and post-secondary education. Play attention's been an integral part of that, but I do have background in nonprofit as well as my MBA. And so business is a big part of what I do as well. So we're really excited to talk today about play attention and how you grow it. So let's go ahead and get started. Can everyone hear me okay? If it sounds good and you can hear me okay, you can just type, okay. You can give me a little thumbs up, whatever in that chat box. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay without any issues. I haven't seen any messages come across, so usually that means the sound is good. Nobody's complaining. So I am getting some good, so excellent. So let's go ahead and get started and talking a little bit more about play attention. So today we're going to review the features that you can be using as a client, or you should be using with your clients, discussing how you can use our focus assessment as a lead generator. So we're going to talk about that. That's something we use here at Play Attention. And that's something I want to let you know. All of these tools are what we use here at Play Attention and make things really effective for us. Provide an overview of our professional options. So even if you are not, even if you don't have the full Play Attention professional program, this is still for you. We're going to give you lots of information on that as well, but also what other options you have available to you as a professional. And then we're going to discuss next steps. So definitely, if after we're done today, you want to chat more with one of us, definitely will be available for that. So let's go ahead and get started. So really what we want to talk about is not only being the experts in our field, but offering your clients more. I hear that all the time when you either do marketing webinars, or if you attend, any kind of business leadership or marketing or sales, anything like that. We always want to provide more than what our clients expect. That's what makes them come back to us. And Play Attention is a great tool for that. And so when we talk about Play Attention, we are the leader in the field. We are the only program available now that integrates feedback technology, behavioral shaping with cognitive training. And we've been doing it for over 25 years. We're the leaders in the field for doing that. And so working with your clients, whether you're working with students, whether you're working with adults, children, in a counseling environment, therapist, doctor, or a tutor, regardless, this is a tool that's effective for all of those individuals that you're working with. And the reason why is because we are designed to build executive function. And executive function is not something that we're born with. It's something that we learn over the years. Well, many of you work with individuals that have comorbidities, whether that be ADHD, whether that be anxiety, depression, learning disabilities. And what we know about that is that all of those different comorbidities have that common denominator of weak executive function. So we can help tutor them in math. We can help provide tools for anxiety. We can help talk about how to, work through certain personal scenarios. But if they don't have that foundation of strong executive function, it makes it really, really difficult for them to build that skill and to build that skill permanently. And that's what we're doing here at Play Attention. So as I mentioned before, Play Attention has been the leader in neurocognitive training for over 25 years. So we really are the experts in this area. So what are key features? And some of these may be familiar to you, and some of them you may be like, oh, I forgot that this is actually there and available to me. And that's why I want to go through this piece first. So the first thing is our body wave armband. Play Attention is the only program that integrates that advanced NASA-inspired body wave technology with cognitive skill training and behavioral shaping, like I mentioned. We are the only program that incorporates those three areas together. And the reason why all of those areas are important is because we need to give individuals feedback. There are certain catalysts that need to be present for our brain to make changes. And those catalysts include attention, deliberate practice, and challenge. And so that body wave armband allows us to give them immediate feedback of their attention, but it also allows them to have that deliberate practice, not only of their attention, but also of those other executive function skills that we are building. So it is that backbone of what we need to do to build. But we're also incorporating those other pieces as well that are very important in that process as we go forward. Now, you're actually, or your clients, and you can use this as well. And so it's always good. You can go on there and do a refresher or practice as well as a provider, as a professional. But remember, they're having the ability in play attention to experience attention. Attention is a very abstract idea. We generally can't touch it, we can't see it, but it's so very important in everything we do, especially with that executive function. Think about, if you've forgotten where you've left something, right? We've all misplaced our keys or our cell phone. And oftentimes we misplace those things because we're not fully attentive, right? We've lost that attention. We're not focused and paying attention. So we're setting that object down and then we're going off to do something else. And when it comes time to find that those keys or that cell phone, we can't remember where it's at. So what we need is that attention. We need that piece of the puzzle. We need to be able to experience. We need to be able to practice it. And this is one thing that we talk about a lot when you're working with individuals that have ADHD. If they're diagnosed with that, it's really a misnomer that there's a deficit of attention, because your ADHD clients can pay attention as long as something's fun and exciting and interesting and they're passionate about it. You almost have that hyper focus. But then in that other environment, whether it's school, whether it's a work project, whether it's doing housework around the house, it's very hard for them to stay engaged. They're unable to experience that attention in that environment. And that's what we want to build for them. We're using the cognitive training and that body wave armband to give individuals that ability to experience that attention, have that deliberate practice. They're actually realizing in the first few seconds, they really can pay attention, because many of them have been told, well, you just can't pay attention. Why can't you just pay attention? And this gives them that experience right off the bat that they're actually able to pay attention. Now, they're probably struggling to sustain that attention, but that's okay. That's what we're going to help build them, build their skill of. Now, we're using that experience and we're using that body wave armband to give them feedback of attention, but we're going to use it in conjunction with our cognitive exercises necessary to build executive function. So there's more than just attention that we need to do here. We need to work on a lot of different areas. Now, here's another great piece about play attention is that we are able to customize this program for different individuals, right? So not everybody, in looking at the screen here, not everybody might need social skills, right? Sometimes you work with individuals that are really, really social. They love that social interaction. They thrive off that social interaction. They do really well in that, but they really struggle to do things in sequence, right? If you give them directions, they really, really have a hard time following those instructions. Maybe you have somebody that does a little bit better at following the instructions. They really struggle in that social environment, right? And I think that's the important thing to remember here, because not only are we working with a wide variety of individuals and potential diagnoses or no diagnosis, because the diagnosis is not required to use play attention. Since we are focusing on that executive function, we really want a program that's not a one size fits all, something that can be customizable, something that can work with everyone. Now, remember, when we're talking about the clientele base, we do recommend that there are at least 5 to get started, but working well into adulthood is still very effective. We work with individuals here at our office in their 80s and their 90s, because we do know as we get a little bit older, we do have a tendency to lose some of that cognitive skill. And so the aging population is still a great population, because with our neuroplasticity in our brains are moldable and shapeable, and we can always learn new skills if we're given the right tools. And that's what we're doing here as we go along. Now, we want to make sure that you know of all of the cognitive exercises that we have available, because that would be one way to offer more to your client. Maybe you just started with our foundational courses, which are the first 6 that you see here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And now you're ready to expand and offer more customization, because the first 6 that you see here are really our foundations of executive function. They're building that strong foundation, but the other 6 that you see, and there's actually a couple more that aren't pictured on the screen that we're going to talk about, are more like our master class, where they're putting a lot more customization into a client's profile. And again, like, not everybody needs social skills. So that giving them someone that really needs it, that customization is going to be really important as we move forward. So let's talk a little bit first about your foundations of executive function. This is what comes with all of our programs, all of our professional program systems come with these first 6 games. And what we're doing in these first 6 games, again, are building that foundation for the client. We're working on attention stamina, right? Learning to sustain our attention at will. So if you have somebody, and really that's like our cornerstone game. Most individuals can benefit from this, because even individuals that don't feel like they have an attention difficulty, with the way information is provided to us now in such a fast-paced way with technology, that attention span is getting smaller and smaller. And so that is a really good way to help build that attention span for them, because we're learning to sustain that attention in more of that mundane environment, right? Because again, remember, most individuals, if then something's fun and exciting and they're passionate about it, they can pay attention to that. It's that opposite environment. And that's what we want to build for them. We can work on visual tracking. That helps us track a moving object. So if you have a client come in, or a parent come in with their child and say, I'm getting lots of notes home from school where when, the teacher is discussing what's going on, my child is everywhere. They're paying attention to all of the things, except they don't know what the teacher's talking about. So a really great example of that would be, oftentimes if a teacher is near us, we can usually pay attention to them, but if they start moving around the classroom, all of a sudden we have that diffused attention. Our attention, it's not that we have a deficit, our attention's everywhere, because all of these things now are coming into our peripheral. So now we can say, oh, I know what's happening outside the window. I know what my neighbor's doing. I know that the air conditioning vent came on. And this really helps us build that ability to filter out those distractions, as well as build that ability to track that moving object. Time on task, this is a great one. This is really usually something that's very necessary for adults. It's very important for children, but we see it a lot with adults. It's, I start a million tasks and I don't finish any of them. Or I'm a huge procrastinator. I can't get started. It's very, very hard. And this happens sometimes too, we hear this from parents, is, my child has a worksheet that should take us about 30 minutes and it's taking us 2 hours and we're still not getting to the end of it. So we need to be able to get those tasks done in the appropriate amount of time. So that time on task is really effective across the board to help us with that time management. Short-term memory, the name pretty much says it, facts, figures, things that have just happened. But another thing that short-term memory can help us with is multi-step instructions. So I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I touched on that. And that's very common if you are working with someone that has a hard time going from A to B to C to D, or you have a parent say, I tell them to go upstairs and put their pajamas on and brush their teeth and grab a book, and I come up there and they haven't done any of it. It can often mean we need to strengthen that short-term memory. Discriminatory processing is helping us quickly filter information. This is another gray area if you're working with someone that has a diagnosis as well of ADHD, because it can often feel like a fire hose of information coming in, right? They're taking in so much. How do they know, yes, I need this, no, I don't need that, and then being able to quickly make decisions. And so it allows us to do that. And then our academic bridge is just a really great tool, because it helps with that transfer and generalization, because we have to have that. We can't just play a game and then boom, it's there. We have to practice these skills in real life. And we're going to talk a little bit more about academic bridge, because it is something that you should be incorporating into your client's program. Now, when we talk about the masterclass, so these are the other exercises that are available, and some of them you may not be aware of. You may have all of them, and so we're going to touch on these, because this, again, is a great way for you to offer more to your clients because you're giving them even more customization. So we have working memory. That is helping us with our problem solving and our critical thinking. So if you have a younger individual that struggles with math word problems, they struggle with comprehension, and even younger into older individuals that maybe say, I really have a hard time prioritizing things. I have a hard time organizing. I have a hard time, planning. It can all fit in that working memory. So that's an area that can be really helpful to build. It's a little bit higher level memory skill for individuals. Auditory processing, that's going to be the verbal information. So if you have an individual that if you write something down for them, awesome, they do a great job. But if you only give them instructions or information verbally, they really have a hard time remembering that. They can maybe do step 1, but they're missing step 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to work specifically giving them information and tasks to repeat verbally. Hand-eye coordination. So again, not everybody needs strong coordination. We work with a lot of athletes. They do fabulous with their coordination, but they're struggling with other areas. This could be where you do have somebody that really struggles with their coordination. And so hand-eye coordination is going to be that fine motor control, instrument playing, handwriting. So if someone really struggles with handwriting, it could be their hand-eye coordination. Social skills, I've talked a lot about that, but it's specifically looking at the nonverbal social cues, right? If we miss the look, if we miss the shake of the head, that can often affect our peer relationship. So it can help us build that area. Motor skills is another area of coordination we can work on. That's more of the mind-body connection, right? So more of how I move my body. So if I'm a little clumsier, I have a little bit of harder time, getting my body to function. I need to connect those two together. And so working on building that. Spatial memory helps us remember where we left things. So I mentioned earlier, we've all lost our phone, our keys, but some individuals, especially if they have high impulse, if they're a million miles an hour all of the time, sometimes they struggle with this because they set things down and they're somewhere else. And when that happens, they're not able to recall where that information is or where those things are at. And then they're losing a lot of items. This was a huge one. If you've listened to any of my webinars, you know that my kids have gone through the program. And for my son, he was 14 at the time. This was huge for us because he lost everything. I tell people if it wasn't attached to his body, he was losing it. And this was really great because it helped him slow down, helped him strengthen that attention, and then it built that retention for him. So working on multiple things to really help with that skill. Mindfulness. Now, this is a new one. So some of you, if you've been with us for a while, you may not be familiar with our mindfulness game. It's actually called Lotus, and it works on building mindfulness. We know mindfulness is so very helpful. There's health benefits, whether it's physical, mental, whatever that is, there's benefits to it. But again, if we're struggling with attention, sustained attention, if we're struggling to quiet our mind, it could be hard to be in that mindful state. It's very hard to know, am I being mindful? Am I practicing the correct way? Is it working? And so our Lotus game helps with that. Your character is actually in a yoga room, and I'm going to show you a picture here in just a second. But as you're focused and paying attention and in that mindful state, you're going to be able to slowly open those petals. There's a lotus flower in front of you, and that's giving you that experience, right? That attention, that mindfulness, you're getting that feedback that you are in that state. But just like with everything else, if we start to lose that, those petals start to close again, giving us that feedback, letting us know now we're no longer engaged, right? So practicing that deliberate practice. Then we also have first and second grade addition and subtraction math. Right now, we just have first and second grade. I know I've had individuals ask for older grades. That's something that's, in our research and development. We're not there yet, but right now we have available first and second grade. So if you're working with individuals, if you're a tutor, if you're an educator, if you have individuals, younger individuals that are really struggling with math, this is a great addition to their training plan. And remember, every single one of those modules that I talked about, all of them are working on processing speed. So no matter what we put into somebody's profile, we're working on that processing speed. We're helping them with task switching. We're helping them control impulse, and we're helping them with distractors. And so remember, we have Sheer Genius built into the program, our artificial intelligence, and it helps determine the challenge that they need. Because remember, we want to customize it for each individual. I mean, these are modules that we're using again from 5 to 105, but we want them to be effective for each individual. And that sheer genius, our artificial intelligence, does that for us. And so it meets the individual where they're at, and then it starts to challenge them, because challenge is one of those catalysts that we need. We can't do the same thing over and over again. And so the way that that would work is somebody got in, they start doing their exercise, and then they do well, and automatically makes it a little harder for them. They meet that challenge, it'll make it a little bit harder again. But if they ever get to a challenge that's too difficult, it will bump it back down to that last level of success, even them out, and then start that process again, because we need to balance that success with that challenge. We have to have both. Can't just make it so hard that someone can't do it. We have to balance that out. Now, remember, as individuals hit certain benchmarks, right? So each level, and you can always go into your system admin and go into the different games and look, all this information is there. So advancement. So remember, each game has a bronze, silver, and gold level, and they advance, individuals advance through those different programs. Again, Sheer Genius is taking care of that for you. And there's certain benchmarks that they need to hit, like attention stamina. To go from bronze to silver, they need to play for at least 5 minutes, and they need to at least have 75% of attention or more. And they have to do that consecutively for 5 times. So when you have a new client, they're going to have to play a few times for Sheer Genius to start gathering their data and collecting that. And then if they play once, after that, if they play once and they hit that at least 5 minutes and that they have at least 75% of attention, remember, they get that star. If they go in again and they do it again, they get a second star. And remember, there's 5 stars, and once all 5 of those stars are lit up, then they will advance to that next level, and then there'll be new benchmarks. And then there's new things built into the program as they advance. Now, also remember, it has to be consecutive, meaning if someone goes in and hits those benchmarks once, and then they go in a second time, and maybe for whatever reason, they hit 60% of attention that day, they're going to lose the star from the first day. Because remember, we don't want to advance them until they're ready, because when we go to that next level, it is an advancement. We want them to be prepared. We want them to be ready. And so know that's there, know that's available, and that's something that's going to happen. And we talk with our home clients here and let them know that that is just a normal everyday part of life, that we're going to, as we start learning stuff, we're not going to learn everything right away. And it's just part of that process, and it's okay. And we'll get right back to there, because we know that they can do it. We just need to practice a little bit more for them to get to that. Now, here are those 2 graphics that I was mentioning earlier. So our addition and subtraction, first and second grade. So it's going to look something like this. There'll be a math problem on there, and then they'll have to be fully focused and paying attention for that math problem to come up. And then they'll have options on the side to choose the answer, and then they'll click next. At any time they lose that attention for any reason, it goes away. And then once they're re-engaged, we're bringing that back, because we have to have that attention experience as we're going through. Now, the other picture I have here is that lotus. And so it's showing the yoga teacher in the room, and then you can kind of cut off just a little bit the flower, the lotus flower that's there and that's available. And as you're fully focused and paying attention, you're opening that flower. And of course, if you lose that, the petals slowly start to close. So again, we're having that experience of what it's like to be in that environment, and then we're practicing it so that we can start to use it outside of play attention. So how do you know, okay? How do you decide, okay, I want this module, I don't want that module? Because remember, you are in complete control of their curriculum. You make the decision of what that curriculum looks like. Now, remember, we are working for an hour a week. We want them to hit that hour of training per week, but we need to break that hour up. Many of our professionals will break it up into 2 30-minute sessions. You have the opportunity to break it up into smaller sessions if they're coming in more often, or we'll talk about iLab, where you could do a virtual opportunity for them, and so they wouldn't have to come to the office as much. But you are in charge of that. Now, remember, when we're talking about play attention, this is not something that's going to be fixed overnight, right? If I'm training for even a 5K, let's say I've never ever ran before, I have, I've been doing walking, but I've never ran before, and I sign up for my first 5K. If I've never ran before and I sign up for my first 5K and it's 2 days away, it's going to be a rough 5K for me. I'm not going to do probably where I want to be. I'm probably going to do a lot of walking. I might be the last one coming through on the finish line. And so that's what we need to look at when we're talking about training our brain. It's not something that happens overnight. And that's something that we use here, and we talk with clients, that kind of that client expectation, right? We need to have that commitment from them to go through this program, because you are going to start seeing results probably in about that first month, but they're not going to be huge. If I eat right and I exercise for 30 days, I'm going to start to see some changes, but they're not going to be huge. They're not going to be these gigantic changes. If I'm being consistent, they're going to be there. And that's really what you're seeing with play attention. Now, we don't want to jam it through either. We don't want to just, cram everything in over a shorter amount of time, because maybe they don't want to do the full, really 40 hours. We're talking about a commitment of about 10 months for someone. Now, if you have somebody that's, maybe severely on the spectrum, maybe they have an intellectual disability, not that they can't build these skills, it just might take them a little bit longer, just like some other skills might be for them. And so that might look a little bit different, but overall, the average that we see is about a 10-month. And so we don't want to just try to do that in a 4-month period or a 5-month period, because it's not going to be effective. We always want quality over quantity, and that's really what we need to emphasize. So generally speaking, when we're talking about setting up curriculum for our clients, we're looking at about 5 exercises. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't do more down the road, but again, we don't want to overwhelm the brain. We want to make sure we're getting enough of each of these skills in there. So you may have something in place now where you're like, oh, I have an assessment, I have an intake chart. It gives me a good idea of what they're needing, what they, how I can create that program. However, remember, we also offer you the opportunity to become accredited in our focus assessment. This is what we use here at Play Attention. It is a great tool, not only to tell us exactly where the individuals are right now, give us a baseline of where their executive function is, but it also allows us to create a plan of action, and it also allows us to generate leads. So focus assessment is an assessment that individuals can do, again, 5 to 105, and it is it's an assessment that you're basically doing certain activities over a 20-minute period. So basically, we're going to ask you to do very simple things. So someone doesn't have to read or write, things like that. It's very simple activities, like when you hit the yellow star, when you see the yellow star, you hit the space bar. The assessment is very slow. It's very mundane. It starts to repeat itself. It's frankly boring. We're basically putting someone in their least ideal situation to see how their attention performs. Because we want to know, in that mundane environment, in that boring, in that potentially challenging environment, how do they perform? Because we know how they do it in that fun, exciting, passionate. We need to get a baseline of where they are. We're looking at 4 areas of attention. We're looking at consistency, performance, impulsivity, and then how they perform while they're being distracted. And that links us back to those different areas, those different modules we have available. It's also norm ranged, meaning that individuals are compared to their peers. So obviously, if I'm working with a 7 or an 8-year-old boy, their impulsivity is going to be higher. It's going to be a bigger range than an adult, right? And so we take that into consideration. Now, just because they're on the norm doesn't mean that training is not going to be effective for them, because that norm gets smaller and it shifts as individuals get older. So we want to make sure that not only are they on that peer group, they're continuing to move with that peer group. This is a really great assessment to use. And again, it gives immediate customization of that neurocognitive training available. Another great thing about this assessment is it can be done again at that 40-hour mark. It can even be done at a 20-hour mark. It's the exact same assessment. So it gives you an apples to apples comparison. Here's where we started. Okay, we've done 20 hours of training. Here's where we are now. Okay, we're post. Look at those changes that we've had. I mentioned we use this as a lead generator. The way that we do this is we often will offer this as an option for someone to do prior to starting our program. Maybe they're not quite sure. Maybe they have never had a diagnosis, but they know they struggle with this, or they're getting a lot of notes home from the classroom and they're like, I don't even know. This is a great tool to help them understand where the difficulties are, but a plan of action. And that a lot of times doesn't happen even if you go to the doctor and get a diagnosis. So we work with a lot of individuals that are newly diagnosed and they're like, so I'm diagnosed, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And that's what that focus assessment can provide, that plan of action, that action that we're going to do to move forward to help strengthen those. And these are the goals that we want to meet, and this is the outcome that we're going to achieve. So that is something that as a professional, you can become accredited in, and you can offer those assessments. You'll read them. Obviously, there'll be training on how you tie those play attention modules to that assessment as it goes through. Now, again, we're looking at 4 areas of attentional control. We're looking at consistency. So how accurate, what was their attention sustained? What did that look like over a 20-minute period? Performance is our memory. This also lets us know if somebody's inattentive. Generally, our inattentive individuals will check out because it's not stimulating to them. And inside, whatever's going on in their head is a higher stimulation for them. Impulsivity, it just shows us how impulsive they are, because often our impulsive individuals will start hitting any key possible to get out of the assessment because it's so difficult for them. And then there's going to be auditory and visual distractions in there. So not only does this tell us the modules they need, this also lets us know how we should break down their training plan, so the time of it, as well as the environment. So if we have somebody that gets into this assessment and 10 minutes in, they start to have an emotional response. They get angry, they get upset. Obviously, they don't have to finish doing the assessment. That's not going to benefit anyone, but it lets us know maybe 30 minutes of play attention in one sitting is going to be more. Now, remember, their play attention is going to be more engaging because they're not doing one thing for 30 minutes, because remember, those games are 5 minutes apiece as we go through, but it lets us know we might need to build them up. So even though they're only coming twice a week, maybe we're just going to start with 10 or 15 minutes in one session, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll slowly build onto that, and we'll get them where they need to be. In that case, that 40 hours might take us closer to a year than 10 months, but it's a good way, instead of overwhelming them and having somebody quit, it gives us great information. Additionally, if someone's very distractible, let's say they're very distracted by noises, every time the noise is going off, they just couldn't even do anything. And so that was really high on the charts. We'll start them with headphones. In the environment they are in, we want to help, again, meet them where they're at. So we will have them wear headphones, and doing that, we're going to actually filter the environmental noises for them. Remember, they're going to be working on those distractions in the exercises, but we're going to filter those environmental noises. And then maybe around 20 hours, we're going to take those headphones off, because eventually we want them to do it in all environments, but that's going to help us. So this is another really great tool to give us that added value for our clients, because it's really giving us a very actionable plan. So it's going to assess, it's going to generate leads, and we're going to be able to convert those leads into clients. I'm going to tell you, of every assessment I do pre-sale, I have probably an 80 to 90% close rate on those, because it's a very actionable, it's showing them exactly what we need to do. So it is a really great tool to use. Additionally, something else that you should be using to help add value is, remember, another piece, one of the pieces of our program that sets us apart is that behavioral shaping tool. And so remember, that behavioral shaping tool is there to help us with those self-distracting behaviors. Many times behaviors are happening. We know there's a 1-to-1 correlation, meaning that an individual is doing this behavior and it's causing them from being fully focused and paying attention, but they don't know that they're even doing it. If you've ever worked with a student or you have a child or whatever that looks like for you, where you've said, hey, do you know that you're humming right now? And they had no recollection of it. And so we want to work on that by bringing awareness to it. And once they're able to be aware of it, then they're able to start regulating and using those tools to help them with those self-distracting behaviors. Now, many of you, when you purchased your program, you got a whiteboard. It came in a whiteboard with a marker. We now have the behavioral shaping tool component online. So this is one of the things I will include in the email follow-up with the recording. There will also be a link to the new online feature. It works the same way, but now instead of having to write everything down, you have the ability to just track everything right there online. So if you have a tablet, if you have a phone, while they're doing their training, you can just have that electronically right there, do all of your entries in that, and then put all of that into Play Attention. And so it just helps it be a little bit more streamlined as we're going forward. And if you're not using this tool and you have a student that really struggles with self-distracting behavior, this is another way that we're going to really help them, build that value within Play Attention, because it's something that's necessary. Ensuring transfer and generalization. So I mentioned this when we were talking about the foundation. This is imperative, right? We have to make that connection to home, to work. We have to have that. We can't just play a game. And we are going to build some skills, but we have to get to that permanency, to get to that graduation, we have to have that transfer and generalization. And that's where that academic bridge comes into play. Now, remember, academic bridge, you can turn it on in your profile, and it's usually after about 12 sessions, it will it will go right into the program. And individuals are using it they could bring homework into into the office, they could do puzzles, they can have conversations, they can read things, basically anything that's real life that they would normally do that they struggle to pay attention with. And that's why sometimes with adults, it can even be a conversation. So even if you're doing therapy after the fact, this is something you could still integrate into that, because you're going to know if they're fully focused or not, or if they're off somewhere else when you're trying to have those conversations. Now, exciting news with our 6.4 version, our latest version of Play Attention, it's offering Academic Bridge as a separate option. That means you can incorporate Academic Bridge at any time. Right now, it goes into the training plan, and if you're doing, 20 minutes, 4 of the 5 of your games are going to come up, so you may or may not get Academic Bridge. But with our latest upgrade, you now have the option to just go in and do Academic Bridge. And this is really great because maybe they're doing sessions at home, or they don't have, where you want to do something outside of their session today, but you want to continue to train. This is an awesome thing. We've been really excited to announce this. So it's something that if you don't have that, you have the ability to upgrade to that. And again, we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of what next steps look like. But this would give you the ability to go right into their training plan for the day, click on Academic Bridge, boom, that would come up, and they'd be able to train on that and move forward. Another option that you can use in your practice with your clients is our media player. So media player is a way for individuals to make sure they're fully attentive when they're getting instructional information. So again, it's working in conjunction with the Play Attention software. It's working in conjunction with the body wave armband, because we need to give feedback. But now someone could watch a lecture. They could have online school. They could have be watching a TED Talk. They could be watching a webinar. And basically what it's going to do is when they're fully focused and paying attention, the streaming is running. Whatever whatever instructional content they're viewing is coming at them. If they lose that attention for any reason, they stop and start taking some notes, that instructional video is going to pause and wait for them to refocus and repay attention. And then once they're refocused, it's going to start back up and go. And then if they lose that attention because they get distracted, because they take notes, because somebody interrupts them, whatever that might be, it's going to pause and then again, wait for them. So we're really, again, taking what they're building in these exercises and we're transferring that into continuous growth, continuing building as they go through. So another option, if you don't have media player, it's something that you can add in to, again, add value to your clients. Play attention helps you solve the ADHD puzzle. Again, ADHD isn't the only diagnosis we work with, but it is very effective in building all of these other areas, right? Executive function, self-regulation, and we have all of the areas of that executive function to help them as they go forward. So play attention is designed for success. So our key features. So you may or may not realize all of these are included in your package. We have that body wave armband technology. We've talked a lot about that at length. The cognitive training, the behavioral shaping program. You have complete control over their curriculum. So again, if you have a client that comes in and things are not quite going well, adjust that curriculum. You have complete control over that. The ability to customize. You have that academic bridge available to you for that transfer and generalization. You have the ability to do a session review, so you can look at all of their data. Remember, all of those reports are being ran in the background. So if you have somebody that's just like, I'm not sure if this is working, I don't feel a change, remember, you can pull in and look at all of that information. Remember, we have a journal for reflection. So that's something that you can turn on at the end of everyone's session, at the end of the individual session. They can type in, there's 2 questions. What did I learn today and what did I do well, right? So helping build that as we go through. We have that deliberate practice model because they're actually doing hands-on as they go through, providing them challenge as they get stronger. They're not doing the same thing over and over again. And it's nothing that you have to do. The system's going to automatically do that for you. Remember, again, data. So you could do a session review, but all of that data is available to you anytime you have a client log in and start training. The system's collecting data on their progress. You have the rewards program built in. Remember, again, you can create a rewards program for any individual that you have. You can work with the parent if you're, seeing somebody in there. You can even do rewards with adults. I mean, that's helpful as well. And basically, remember, the way that works is once the individual's played a few sessions, the system starts automatically generating goals for them. And the goals are those benchmarks that they're struggling to hit. So if we want them to be at 75% of attention and they're only at 50, us saying you need to be at 75% isn't going to be helpful for them. So the way the system sets up that goal is next time they log in, it's going to say, today, let's be at 53%. Once they achieve that, then let's be at 55. And it's going to continue to push them until they get to that 75%. Now, remember, those goals can directly be related to that rewards program, meaning when they meet a goal, they earn a point, and those points can be created however they want. And it's not like you have to have a rewards program for everyone or no one. It's, again, individual for each client that you have moving forward. And then Sheer Genius. Again, Sheer Genius is that artificial intelligence that does all the heavy lifting for you as you go forward. Now, what are your professional options? So we hit a lot on what you already have as a professional. It's there, it's available to you. Minus the assessment, you may or may not have that, minus media player, but we'll talk about that. You also have the ability to do iLab and certified providers. So these are additions that you can use to really help you to continue to grow your program. So the professional system is designed to do one-to-one. Someone's coming to you or you're going to them, and you're doing that one-to-one training. So you're working with them and then before you go to someone else. And so again, some of you are not quite at that full professional system yet. You maybe have, because remember, our home system comes with a couple user licenses. Some of you maybe have 4, 5, 6 user licenses, but that fully professional system comes with, of course, the technology, the behavioral shaping module, training software package. You have an executive functions coach to work with you. Remember, you always have that person available so if you have questions, if you need assistance with something, they're always there available for you. Free staff training, unlimited user licenses, and a lifetime membership. And remember, the cost on that is $2,495. Now, if you started with the program and you have a few user licenses, remember, you can upgrade to that professional system and you don't have to pay that full price. And so if you want to talk through what would that look like on that upgrade, I'm going to give you that opportunity at the end to, request some information so we can break that down for you. Another thing that's available now that may not have been available once you started was Affirm. So we've recently partnered with a company called Affirm who offers payment plans, and it's something that you can use as a professional as well. Now, unfortunately, is only available for our US clients, but it is something where you can go in and see, okay, they have 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12-month options where you can break down the cost of some of this equipment over the period of time. Let's talk a little bit though before, because I know we're getting closer to the end of time and I still have lots of information to share. Let's talk about iLab. So our professional system limits you to one-to-one, right? You're working with one individual at a time and you either physically have to be with them or they have to physically be with you. That can be difficult for some individuals, as we've gone through the pandemic and we kind of see there's a lot more virtual options available. iLab gives you this option. So iLab actually gives you more than just the virtual option. You have two options and you can use either or. You don't have to pick one and always do that. You could have group and do some virtual. But iLab allows you to do group training. So you're doing multiple individuals at one time, or it gives you the option where you can do virtual. There's no geographical constraint on the iLab. As long as they have internet, you have the software, you're able to do that and work through that. So let's talk a little bit about that. So here, this is a graphic we show a lot, but here is an example. So group training, 2 individuals working, and the facilitator or the individual that's working with them would have their own computer. That's what you don't see on here, where they would be able to see the data for both individuals. If the individual's data dropped, it would ping and let the facilitator know. And so it gives you lots of information as you go through that process. It allows you to monitor and communicate from your office. So you can be located in your office, whether your office is a physical place, you're working from home, whatever that looks like. And then your students are at their home or at their school, whatever that looks like as well. And you're able to see their data in real time. So even with that virtual option, you have everything closed in one package. And so iLab offers everything in one. You don't have to use any third-party apps. You have the ability to see their data in real time. You have the ability to see them. You can still do that behavioral shaping because if they have a camera on their computer, you can observe them while they're doing their training. You have voice, so you can call, you can chat, you can instant message. You've got all of those options to work with the individual through that process. So essentially you can have that one-to-one session, but someone is there at their place, you are at your place. Another option that iLab gives you is if you're working with a client and they need to do 4 sessions a week, with iLab, if you wanted, they could do 2 sessions independently and then 2 sessions with you. They could do 3 sessions independently and 1 session with you. There's a lot of flexibility with the iLab program. They don't have to meet with you every single time, but you can still work with them. You can still have access to their data. And so it gives you a lot more flexibility to work with as you're going forward. Now, when we're talking about cost of our iLab system, you do have to have that professional system. So if you're not quite at that professional level yet, you will need to upgrade to that. And then you need to have the software, the licensed software available to you, which is $399. That unlocks all of that iLab. It's a one-time fee that gives you all of that components of being able to do the virtual, being able to do the group training. Everything's right there available for you. And then each student you're working with, and student is not just a student, it's an adult, it's a child, whoever that individual is working with. So if you want to work with 3 individuals in a setting and do group, you would need to have 3 student stations because everybody needs to have that body wave armband, that software available to them to use at that time. If you're working with 3 virtual clients, each of those virtual clients would need to have a student station as well. Now, here's the thing with iLab and your student stations, you can use those multiple times as a professional. So if you purchase that student station, if someone's using it virtually, that is probably going to be out of your inventory for 10 months to a year, right? Because they're going to be using it. But then once they graduate and complete the program, that software can come back into, or that hardware can come back into your inventory and you can use it again. When we're talking about return on investment, one thing that many of our professionals will do when it comes to, they'll do one of 2 things when it comes to the student station. Number 1, if they are purchasing it themselves and they're keeping it in their inventory and they're having a client use it for a certain amount of time, they will rent that equipment to them. Generally speaking, it's about $250 a month. That's what we're seeing. Again, you do all of your pricing. And so that would be up to you if you would want to do that and what that would look like. But in about a 10 to a year, if we're looking at $250 a month, you're going to have that equipment paid for before it comes back into your inventory for you to use it again on just one client. But then you can use it again. Another option that professionals have available to them is if you want to work with a client, but you have them purchase the student station. If you want them to purchase that student station for the $1,995, you can do that. We'll ship it directly to them. Our tech will work with them to get everything set up, but you have that. But then they would keep it at the end. So you've got some flexibility in that. You have some availability in what that looks like. Now, again, when we're talking about sessions, still, even if we have a professional renting the equipment, they're still charging a session fee. Usually, again, our session fees are between $30 and $50 a session. So if they're working with you twice a week at $50, it's $100 a session. Now, this is where I said, maybe they're doing 2 sessions a week, but they're only working with you once. So then they would only have $50 a week to work. And then they would be able to have access to do the training on their own a different day of the week. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. Again, we're going to give you the opportunity if you want to talk through that more with us, we can do that. The last and final thing that I want to talk to you about is how, I'm ready. I love what I do. I love that Play Attention is offering me all of those things, but how do I get the people into my office to use it, right? That is the $1 million question. And that's where the marketing comes into place. Marketing is so vital. And I think sometimes we forget that marketing is what brings people in the door, right? So a recent survey indicated a small business owner will spend 20 hours a week on marketing and spend anywhere between 7 and 8% of their gross revenue. Now, raise your hand if you have an extra 20, there's a little hand raised down there. Raise your hand if you have an extra 20 hours a week to do marketing. I'm probably not going to see any hands. I'm not going to see any hands at all because there's very few of us out here that have, with a small business, have 20 hours to solely spend on marketing. And then the thing about marketing is sometimes you try one way and it doesn't work and you have to readjust, and you have to market specifically for this demographic and for that demographic, and how do I do all of those things, and what platform do I use, and what are all of those pieces. And so an average is 20 hours. That means some individuals are spending way more time than the 20 hours. And that's the 20 hours as a small business person that we do not have. And that's where our certified provider program comes into play. So I'm blocking a little bit of this, but again, you're going to get all of this access. But our certified provider program does the marketing for you. None of you said that you have 20 hours to work in a week on marketing. And that's why we created this certified provider program, because we've done it all for you. This is marketing that we use here at Play Attention. And we, host webinars weekly, and we get hundreds and hundreds of people to come to our webinar every single week because we are seen as the experts. We provide all kinds of marketing materials to individuals every single day, and we want to share those with you. So with the marketing materials, you will have access to an online portal. That portal will have information on how to set clear goals for your business, marketing strategies that are proven for Play Attention, marketing materials, again, proven and vetted for Play Attention, and then your action plan of moving forward. So you're going to have access to these right off the bat once you become a certified provider. We're going to help you define your target audience, know your audience, and know how to reach them, know what problem you're solving, and helping you lay out a strategic plan. And then how do we promote all of that? And this is why it takes so much time, because it's not just, I'm going to slap this image up here on Facebook and it's going to draw all these people in. No, we have to define what people are we looking for? How do we reach those people? What problem are we solving of these people? How do we create, that plan for them so they stay in our program the whole time? And then how do we promote all of that information that we receive? So marketing materials are also delivered to you every single month. So not only are you going to get those materials right off the bat on how to build everything, strategies, key performance indicators, all of that information, but we're also going to provide brand new marketing to you every single month. Every single month, you're going to have brand new marketing. We usually have a topic every month. We've done it on procrastination, anxiety, reading comprehension. And so every single month, you are going to get brand new marketing materials on that topic. They're going to include a pre-made ebook, PowerPoints with script, social media posts to target your audience. And that's, again, what I really want to emphasize is we consistently have hundreds and hundreds of leads coming in to Play Attention because we are seen as the expert, because we provide free ebooks to individuals. That's a lead generator right off the bat. We are talking about topics that they're interested in. We're doing webinars that provide them with more information, again, free, because we're giving them more. We're adding that value to them. And then we're also targeting them the same way on social media. And we have that united message. And that's another thing in marketing that's so very important. We have to have that consistent, that united message as we go through. And the great thing about the social media posts is you are going to have one that looks kind of like what this looks like, but you're also going to have a blank one. So you can add whatever information. And we use Canva here. It's a very simple software where you can drop images in and put a whole bunch of pieces on top of it. You can insert your logo, the name of your business, all different kinds of information in there. Here's another example. Does your amazing child have low self-esteem, right? So what do you say when, when saying I can do it or you can do it is not enough, right? So download our ebook. And again, when people are downloading their ebook, they're showing interest to you, and that's a way that you can go back and work with them more. A webinar is always, again, a great information because you can share with them, you can hit those pain points and really help them as they move forward. Because doing a great job at what we do is awesome, but we have to let people know, and that's where that marketing piece comes into play. Here's another example of it. So we have marketing materials. So the marketing materials available to you will be for both children and adults. We don't have one or the other because so many of our certified providers are working with either a variety of clients or they have one versus the other. So you're going to have access to both of those. And then when we talk about pricing on that certified provider is the licensing fee, the membership is $2,000. You're going to have an initial business planning meeting and you'll have immediate access to your online marketing portal. So you have marketing materials right there ready to go. We're going to work through those with you. And then the cost of it, that's a 2-year membership. The $2,000 gives you that membership for 2 years. And then it's $50 a month because every single month we are providing you with a new ebook, PowerPoint slides, graphics, all done, all ready, providing you all Play Attention specific. And again, proven, used by us here at Play Attention. So wrapping up, and I know I'm getting very close to my time, but wrapping up all of the ways that we've talked about today of how you can cultivate and grow your business, you can incorporate masterclass modules. That's number one. If you don't have all of the modules, that's a really simple way. Boom, bring those extra modules in. You can offer the media player. You can become Focus accredited. You can expand with iLab or you can become a certified provider. Okay, so those are all of the different ways available to you right now that you can build that. So I want to give you some next steps, and then I'm going to give you a special offer. So hang on with me for just a couple more minutes. If you want to discuss all the professional options available and you want to schedule a one-to-one consultation so we can really dig in a little bit more to your business and what would make sense for you, type in consultation into the chat box. If you want to learn more about the Focus accreditation and learn more and try out the assessment, see what that looks like, type in Focus. If you're ready to upgrade right now, you know for sure, hey, I want to add some of those modules in right now, those masterclass modules. I'm ready to, I know I'm not on 6.4. I want to talk about that upgrade. I'm really interested in the media player. Type in upgrade and your phone number, and we will help you through that process. We'll give you a call and walk you through that. And if you maybe you have new staff, right? So maybe you have new staff or someone else is running your program and they didn't do the original tutorial with you or with the staff. And so Play Attention is a little bit new to them. You can type in tutorial and we can help you get scheduled for a tutorial to go through the the 90-minute training on how to use play attention. Now, as a special, and my head's kind of in the way here, I'm very sorry about that. As a thank you for joining us today, we are going to offer you 10% off your order. Now, unfortunately, we cannot combine it with any other offer. We can't combine it on a past order that you did, or we cannot discount the iLab Student Station. The iLab Student Station is already discounted, so unfortunately we can't. But on the other things, modules, masterclass modules, licensing, media player, all of those things, we can do the 10% off, and that's going to be available through the end of the month. Through, I believe it's a week. I think Thursday is the end of March already, next week. But as a thank you, we wanted to provide that for you. So let me back up a little bit more. First of all, are there questions that I can answer for you now? I know I've given you tons and tons of information, so I want to give you that, an opportunity to ask any questions. Also remember, if you want to do a consultation just to see what would look like, where you're at now, what options you would have going forward, what those options would look like cost-wise, type in consultation. We'd be happy to help you do that. If you want to know more about focus, you can do that. Just type in focus. We'll talk. We'll send you a focus. You can try it out. We'll see what that looks like. To become accredited in the focus assessment, it is $800, but that's a one-time fee. Once you become accredited, you're accredited. You have that. Each assessment you do is $25. That's the credit. You would purchase credits and then you would use that. But again, you could charge $25 for it. You could charge a little bit more. You could offer it as a free option to bring people in the door. So there's some options for that. If you want to upgrade, you're like, hey, I know there's stuff I want to upgrade now. Type in upgrade with your phone number. We will reach out to you. And then tutorial. Oops, I had a question here. So I had a question here. Someone took the focus themselves and they said it was the longest 20 minutes of their life. I would agree. I've taken it. My kids have taken it. Is intentionally designed to be very, very mundane because that's how we get that baseline. So then the question is, she can't imagine her grandson who's 6 doing it. How would this test look like if it only lasts 5 or 10 minutes? So what that would look like, that's not uncommon. So I don't want you to be worried about, oh, they only get 5 minutes. Again, it's going to give us some data, right? It's going to show us that they were impulsive. It's going to show us more information on their performance, if distractions were bothering them up to that point, what that consistency looked like in that time frame, right? So it's going to give us that in that period of time that they did. But it's also going to tell us that ability to how we're going to cut down that program, right? Because if they can't get through more than 5 or 10 minutes of the focus assessment, we're not going to sit them down and say, okay, we're doing 30 minutes of play attention at one time. Now, remember, play attention is only 5 minutes a piece in our beginning level of our exercises. So in 30 minutes, they would rotate through all of their games. But we would say, okay, that actually gives us great information, because what we would do here in a scenario like that, if we had a 5 or 6-year-old only make it through 5 or 10 minutes, we would say, okay, we're going to start with attention stamina. And we're going to see how far we can get in attention stamina with them. Maybe we can't even get the full 5 minutes with them in attention stamina, but we're going to do that every single day of the week, right? So we're going to start and we're going to see if we can get them to 3 minutes of attention stamina. Because remember, every time they go in and train, they're building those pathways. They're getting stronger. So that 3 minutes is going to lend itself to 3.5 minutes. 3.5 is going to lend itself to 4. And maybe before we get to that 5 minutes, now we can say, okay, we're going to now add a second game in, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in. And we're going to say, okay, now we see from your assessment that maybe we need to work on this exercise, right? So now we're working on building that ability for them to sustain their attention, which is obvious if they're struggling to get through that assessment. Now, here's another area that we're going to start working on, and that's kind of what that's going to look like. So I hope I answered that question for you. Debbie, there really isn't a particular headset that's better than another. I would say a wired headset. We don't want to use Bluetooth. Bluetooth can interfere. with the body wave armband and the computer. So something that you can plug in to your computer, or they can plug in directly to their computer. So there's not one thing better than the other, but I would highly recommend a plugged headset versus a wired headset. So good question. What is on the computer if the client wants to purchase it? What else does it do? Does it have Windows downloaded? Okay. Are you specifically talking if the client purchases the student station? If that's what you're asking, okay, Leon. So when we're talking about if a client purchases the student station, they get the body wave armband, they get the software that's downloaded directly onto their computer. So they have that licensed software right there available to them. So whatever exercises they have available, do they have the foundation? You know, did you get extra exercises on there? They have availability to that full program. Now, obviously, they can't look at anybody else's stuff. They're strictly working on that. So they have the full Play Attention program. And then when they're done training, we can adjust the license so that they can continue to work if they want on their own. Basically, it would just be separate from yours going forward. So they have the full program from that. Now, when they're using it on a computer, it has to have the same specifications that a computer would be for you to run it or for our home client to run it. They would need to, Windows or Apple computer, they would need to have the specifications for that. Our tech support does work with them to help them get all of that in there. But the difference between if they purchase the student station versus a home system is the home system isn't going to give you any access to any of that material. With that professional or with that student station, you are able to connect with them virtually while they're doing the training. So they have that Play Attention option. Plus they have that ability to go virtual for you to see their progress. And no, they're not getting a computer. No, they have to have their own computer to run that program. Yeah. Okay. So again, remember, if you need anything, if you want to talk about any of these pieces, I'm happy to connect with you on that. If you're not quite at that professional level yet and you're ready to talk about upgrading to that professional, we can do that as well. I see several individuals here are ready for that next step. So that's great. We will be reaching out to you. Again, thank you so much for attending today. We will be getting this information together, sent out to you. Like I said, about tomorrow, usually early afternoon, we'll have that out. So take a look for that. Watch your spam folder though. We have noticed that for some reason, I don't know if because there's a video link in there or what's going on, but we are getting a lot of feedback from some of our clients, especially our current clients, that some of what we're sending is going in the spam folder. So just keep an eye out for that. If you don't see that, let us know. We'll make sure that you get it. Thank you so much again for attending. We appreciate it. And please let us know if you need anything from us. Thanks so much. Take care.